Welcome back to my YouTube channel in the bustling year of 2018. While most of the United States focused on midterm elections, emerging tech trends, and shifting global headlines, an altogether quieter transformation was underway. It began in the heart of the U.S. Mint, where blank planchets clinked against steel and copper, rolled through presses under exacting standards, and emerged bearing crisp designs from the America the Beautiful Quarter series. One of these designs, honoring the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore in Wisconsin, bore the expected elements: elegant pines etched against lake waters, a sleek kayak cutting through mirrored waves, and the sharp relief of cliffs standing defiantly against time. But somewhere, in the repetition of precision and the orchestration of millions of coins, something diverged from expectation. It wasn't obvious. Not at first. The quarter still gleamed with the luster of its nickel-clad surface. The inscriptions were in place: United States of America, Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and $quarter. Everything about it appeared routine, unremarkable, until it passed through the hands of someone who didn't take things at face value. Miles from the Mint, in the quiet suburbs of a small Illinois town, a retired postal worker named Dennis Connor sat at his kitchen table surrounded by rolls of coins. For years, Dennis had collected coins not for profit, but for the serene joy of the hunt. A man of habit, he sorted them under soft lamplight, eyes adjusting to the gleam, fingers thumbing edges worn and sharp alike. He had handled hundreds of the Apostle Islands quarters, yet one particular roll held something that stalled his breath. The first thing he noticed was an odd shimmer around the edge, as if the coin were twisted ever so slightly. He turned it in the light. Then again. At a glance, the quarter seemed off-kilter. The design didn't line up. The kayak sat unnaturally low, and the lettering, particularly E pluribus unum, tilted like a ship listing to one side. Dennis' pulse quickened, his routine now a question. Could this be a simple die deterioration? A strike-through error? Or was this something rarer? Something that didn't have a name yet? He placed the coin beneath his magnifying loupe, heart thudding in his chest. There it was. A slight clockwise rotation in the reverse design. Misalignment. A subtle, almost imperceptible off-center strike that caused the entire reverse imagery to appear askew. It wasn't dramatic, like an off-planchet strike or a double denomination mule. No, this was more deceitful. A whisper of deviation tucked inside ordinary metal. The term for such an anomaly was rotated die error. These errors occur when the obverse and reverse dies are improperly aligned, causing the reverse design to appear rotated in relation to the obverse. While common enough in earlier coinage, they were exceedingly rare in modern quarters, especially those from the America the Beautiful series where machinery and process had achieved near perfection. The realization sent Dennis down a rabbit hole of research, reaching out to numismatist forums, mailing high-resolution images to regional grading companies, even making a trip to a coin show in Milwaukee to consult experts. What he learned only deepened the intrigue. The 2018 Apostle Islands quarter was minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with Denver's D mark stamped neatly beneath. In God We Trust. Most of the circulated errors, when found, were barely worth noting. But this one, Dennis' coin, showed a dramatic 90-degree die rotation. Experts confirmed that the coin had likely slipped through undetected during a fleeting malfunction or miscalibration, and somehow survived quality control. Only a handful of such coins had been reported nationwide. Dennis kept the coin in a protective slab, labeled not with pride but with a wary awe. At first, he declined to sell it. He watched as similar rotated die errors began appearing in online auctions. At first, $50, then $125. One topped out at $360, depending on rotation severity. Speculation swirled. Had the mint run a bad batch? Would more errors surface? Or was this just a quirk, a mechanical hiccup in the relentless churn of automated perfection? And then something strange happened. The coin community began to speculate not just on the error itself, but on a curious subset. Dennis coin, once considered an anomaly, matched exactly with two other known errors. Same misalignment, same location of rotation, same die markers. That raised an unsettling possibility. What if these weren't scattered accidents, but part of a single faulty die pair that remained in use longer than anyone had realized? Weeks turned into months. Auction houses fielded calls. Collectors posted side-by-side images. Theories bubbled. Perhaps the mint had discovered the error, but allowed a few coins to slip out before decommissioning the faulty dies. Or worse, perhaps the dies had been quietly reinstalled after repair, introducing a second wave of matching errors. The possibility of a second-generation error, an echo of the original mistake, triggered a surge in interest. Suddenly, the market reacted with feverish energy. Bidders began snapping up rotated die Apostle Islands quarters, especially those with high degrees of misalignment. Prices escalated rapidly. A coin with a 60-degree rotation sold for $9.80. Another with a near-mythical 90-degree rotation fetched $1 at a live auction in New Jersey. Dennis' phone rang weekly with offers, each one more breathless than the last. Still, he held on. Not out of greed, but because he couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger loomed beneath the surface. If 3 near-identical errors existed, how many more had gone unnoticed? And if those coins had already infiltrated circulation, where were they now? Then came the twist. A collector from Arizona reached out, claiming to possess a coin with the reverse die rotated, an impossibility, or so experts claimed. Coin dies are mounted such that only the obverse die typically rotates due to mounting stress or loosening. But this coin showed evidence that the reverse die had shifted, a far rarer phenomenon. More than that, it appeared that the coin had been res-struck while misaligned, creating a faint doubling in the lettering and a ghost image of the kayak just beneath the original. Forensic numismatists, yes, they exist, examined this anomaly and posited a theory. A die clash during rotation, followed by a reseating of the die without recalibration. Essentially, the mint machinery had hiccuped, fixed itself, and carried on, unaware that a short burst of error-laden coins had been born. Less than 20 such coins were confirmed, all within a narrow window of serial batches. As word spread, the market froze in collective suspense. Coin dealers whispered about the 20, as if discussing lost manuscripts or rare books. Online forums debated the implications. Was this the first modern quarter series with verified multiphase errors? Could the die itself be traced through the visible clash marks? Theories blossomed. Authentication agencies revised protocols. A new classification, Phase 2 reverse clash rotation, was tentatively adopted. Dennis, now something of a cult figure in error coin circles, finally agreed to submit his quarter for public auction. By this point, collectors had placed it not only as the first known error of the batch, but as the only one to display both die rotation and early die wear, essentially a birthmark of the error's origin. The auction was tense. Bidding opened at $5,000. Within minutes, it had passed $8,000, then $11,000. A final flurry pushed it to $14,750. But Dennis didn't sell. In a moment that stunned the room, he withdrew the coin mid-auction. When asked why, he simply said, "We don't know enough yet. I think there's still more to learn." And there was, months later, a coin with both obverse and reverse rotated, an impossibility by every known minting standard, surfaced from a collector in Oregon. It bore Dennis' same die markers, the ghost kayak, the offset motto, but now with both faces out of alignment. The coin had no business existing, and yet it did. It suggested a die had been reset in an entirely new orientation, something only possible if the mint had manually reinstalled it. That revelation turned the narrative from mechanical error to human oversight, possibly even intention. What had once been a humble 25-cent piece tucked inside a wrapper of change had become the center of a layered mystery, one that merged technical malfunction, human decision, and collector obsession. Today, the Phase 2 Apostle Islands rotated die quarter, particularly the dual alignment anomaly, is considered one of the most enigmatic modern coin errors in circulation. Only 6 dual alignment specimens have been confirmed, and all have fetched more than $20,000 at privatesale.as for Dennis. He still hasn't sold his coin. He keeps it in a climate-controlled safe, stored next to his childhood baseball cards and war-era ration stamps. When asked if he regrets not taking the $14,750, he only smiles. "Every coin tells a story," he says, "but some don't finish the story until you flip them over a few times." And in the quiet gleam of that rotated quarter, history continues to whisper its secrets. In the measured rhythm of 2019, as headlines turn to trade wars, shifting economies, and the slow, steady beat of another American year, the presses at the U.S. Mint clattered on. Coins were struck by the millions, clean and uniform, like metal echoes of national identity. That year, the America, the Beautiful Quarters program released 5 distinct designs, each celebrating a cherished site, from Lowell National Historical Park in Massachusetts to San Antonio Missions in Texas. But it was the coin commemorating the American Memorial Park in the Northern Mariana Islands that would come to carry a secret, a quiet error born from perfect routine. The design was poignant. A young woman stands with her back to the viewer, facing a solemn memorial, holding a traditional wreath. It was meant to capture reverence and remembrance, a quiet reflection of sacrifice. The die-cast detail was delicate, the lines of the woman's dress flowing like a whisper, the memorial wall etched with respect. But in the steady hum of the Mint's production floor, where steel met blank planchets and sparks of precision lit the air, one batch of quarters began to stray off course. It didn't scream its error. It didn't flash with obvious deformity. The coin moved through hands like any other, a jingle in a change drawer, a glint on a cafeteria counter, until it reached Maya Griggs, a high school teacher from Spokane, Washington, who spent her spare evenings unwinding with coin rolls and herbal tea. Maya had no formal training in numismatics, but she had a collector's intuition, the subtle sense that something was just not quite right. She had picked up a batch of 2019 quarters from her bank that week, mostly Lowell and River of No Return designs. But one coin, gleaming under the kitchen pendant light, refused to sit still in her fingers. The obverse looked sharp, Washington's portrait unblemished, inscriptions in place. But when she flipped the coin, her brow furrowed. The woman in the reverse design appeared distant, tilted, not quite aligned. Maya rotated the coin along its edge and blinked. The reverse image did not sit square to the obverse. It was askew, as if the coin had twisted between breaths. She took out her loupe. The error came into focus, a rotated die strike, but with a strange elegance. The rotation wasn't extreme, maybe 80 to 90 degrees, but the effect was undeniable. The memorial wall leaned, almost as if it were bowing under memory. The wreath tilted in her hands, like a quiet offering to gravity. Maya's hands trembled. She'd read about die rotations. She knew they were rare in modern coinage, especially in the post-2010 quarters where machinery had evolved past such basic malfunctions. The next few days blurred. She posted images to collector forums. Some doubted her at first. Photographs could deceive. But then others chimed in. A man from Florida shared a nearly identical image. Then another collector from Ohio. Each had a 2019 American Memorial Park quarter with varying degrees of die rotation. None of them had realized the significance until now. The community buzzed with speculation. Was this a single die error? Or were multiple presses involved? And if so, why hadn't the Mint flagged it? Theories surfaced. Perhaps during routine maintenance, a die had been improperly reinstalled. Or maybe an unnoticed calibration issue had spread across several presses before the problem was corrected. But the real mystery, the one that kept collectors awake at night, was how long the error had gone unnoticed. Maya submitted her coin to a grading agency. When it returned, slabbed in a clear case, the label confirmed her suspicion. Rotated reverse die, 90 degrees. It was graded MS66. And just like that, what had been a simple bank withdrawal became something entirely different. Collectors began hunting. Searches turned obsessive. Coin roll hunters, armed with magnifying glasses and hope, combed through boxes, hunting for that subtle twist in alignment. A few surfaced, some with minor 15-degree rotations, others with bold shifts over 100 degrees. Each discovery fed the mystery, and with every authenticated specimen, the value of Maya's coin ticked upward. In early 2020, one sold privately for $300. Another hit $750 in a numismatic online auction. The price was directly tied to the degree of rotation and condition. By 2021, high-grade versions showing dramatic misalignments were trading at over $200. But those were still small numbers compared to what would come next. A collector named Julian Park, known for chasing rare modern errors, unearthed a new twist, literally. His coin, nearly perfect in its strike, bore a 180-degree die rotation. When flipped top to bottom, the obverse and reverse were inverted. It was the maximum error possible in a rotated die alignment. Julian's coin sent shockwaves through the collecting world. Only a handful of confirmed 180-degree rotations exist for modern quarters, and this was the first known example in the 2019 series. Then came the surprise. Under high magnification, Julian noticed faint doubling on the inscriptions around the rim, not from a traditional double die, but from a pivoted hub doubling, where misalignment during the die creation caused ghost lettering beneath the main impression. This meant Julian's coin had two distinct errors, an extremely rare combination that amplified its uniqueness. The coin was submitted to PCGS, which labeled it rotated die 180 degrees with pivoted doubling, MS67. It made headlines in niche publications. Collectors speculated this was the first known dual-error coin of its kind in the 2019 quarter series. When it went to auction in late 2023, it sold for $16,500, shattering expectations. The sale pulled even more attention to the 2019 quarter series. Prices surged. Even moderate rotations, once dismissed as curiosities, now fetched hundreds of dollars. A coin with a 120-degree rotation graded MS65 crossed the $2,000 mark. One with visible clash marks, and a 100-degree rotation went for $3,800. The market was no longer just collectors. It was investors, speculators, people betting on the next hidden gem. All the while, Maya watched the frenzy from a distance. She still had her original coin, resting in a protective vault. She had refused numerous offers over the years, each one higher than the last. The last offer she received, quietly made by a prominent East Coast collector, was $9,500. She didn't take it, not because she was chasing a higher price, but because, as she once told a local newspaper, "This coin changed the way I look at small things. Sometimes history doesn't shout. It hums in your hand." As of 2025, experts believe fewer than 30 high-grade rotated die errors exist for the 2019 American Memorial Park quarter. Of those, only 3 are confirmed with rotations of 180 degrees. Julian's remains the highest-graded specimen, and the only one with confirmed pivoted hub doubling. His coin, the same one discovered in a dusty bank box in California, now carries an insured value of $18,000. In 2019, as the United States pushed forward into the final stretch of a turbulent decade, the U.S. Mint continued its ongoing commitment to honor national parks and historic landmarks through the America the Beautiful Quarters program. Among the 5 coins released that year, the quarter representing the Northern Mariana Islands American Memorial Park quietly joined the ranks. It wasn't minted with fanfare. There were no commemorative ceremonies, no announcements beyond the usual press briefings. It was just another coin, part of the greater machinery of memory, until something happened that no one expected. The design was powerful in its silence. A young woman, viewed from behind, stood at the edge of the memorial wall, gently holding a wreath. Her posture conveyed quiet reflection. The monument before her etched the memory of those lost. It was a subtle, emotional tribute. The level of detail was sharp and poignant, typical of modern mint craftsmanship. These coins came rolling off the presses at Philadelphia and Denver in huge quantities, designed to circulate, to pass unnoticed from hand to hand. But amid that ocean of sameness, one coin began telling a different story. It wasn't immediate. It took time for anyone to notice. But deep in Kentucky, a retired Navy veteran named Carl Ramsey was working through a fresh box of quarter rolls from his local bank. Carl had a habit, a quiet ritual. He'd search for W-mint marks, rare errors, anything unusual. On a cold November morning, his magnifier revealed something off. When he flipped a 2019 American Memorial Park quarter between his fingers, the reverse design didn't match the orientation of the obverse. The alignment was off. Subtly wrong. Just enough to confuse the eyes. He checked again. The Washington portrait on the front stood tall and centered. But the reverse scene, the memorial and the young woman, was rotated. The alignment was tilted nearly 100 degrees counterclockwise. He thought maybe it was a fluke, a bent coin, a trick of the light. But no. It was a rotated die error. Carl's heart pounded. He had found off-center strikes before. Minor cuts. But never this. He checked other coins from the roll. All were normal. Just this one, this single glinting piece of metal, refused to conform. And in the world of coins, refusal is everything. He posted photos online. At first, there was skepticism. Photos get misinterpreted. Angles deceive. But as more collectors chimed in, it became clear. This wasn't fake. This was real. A legitimate rotated die error on a 2019 quarter. And it wasn't the only one. Soon, other reports trickled in. Coins with 90-degree rotations. Others with 120. One with a full 180-degree inversion. For modern quarters, that kind of error was rare. Extremely rare. The U.S. mint processes in the 21st century had nearly eliminated such mistakes. Rotated dies were a problem from the past, remnants of older, less precise machinery. So why now? Theories spread. Perhaps a misalignment occurred during routine die installation. Or maybe one die had been damaged during production and incorrectly reseated. Either way, the mint never acknowledged the error. There was no recall. No official recognition. Just a quiet oddity trickling into circulation, waiting to be caught by those paying close enough attention. Carl sent his coin in for grading. It came back MS66 with a 100-degree rotation label. When the coin returned, slabbed and certified, the offers began to roll in. But he wasn't interested in selling, at least not yet. He was more interested in what came next. Over the following year, the value of these error coins began to rise. At first, they were curiosities, selling for a few $100s at auction, bought by niche collectors who specialized in die varieties. But soon, the market began to understand their rarity. Prices crept upward. $500, $900. Coins with higher degrees of rotation began commanding even more. By the end of 2021, one example with a 160-degree misalignment sold for over $2 100. Then came an anomaly. A collector in Utah, Grace Liu, found something no one had seen before. Her 2019 Memorial Park quarter didn't just have a rotated reverse. It also had dramatic die clash marks across Washington's profile. A ghost-like impression of the memorial design hovered faintly over his face, as if the two images were merging. She consulted experts. It was a double error, both a rotated die and a severe die clash. The grading came back. MS65 with visible clash, 130-degree rotation. That coin fetched $6, 800 at auction in 2023. Die clash errors are themselves highly collectible, especially when clear and well positioned. But combined with an already rare rotated die, the uniqueness drove the price even higher. Collectors began hunting specifically for 2019 quarters with clash marks. A few more surfaced. One with a partial wreath imprint across Washington's cheek. Another where the columns of the memorial wall faintly bled through the obverse rim. Each coin added depth to the mystery. Despite dozens of discoveries, the total number of confirmed rotated die Memorial Park quarters remained small, less than 50 known examples, with only a handful above 120 degrees of rotation, and even fewer with documented die clash features. Every new find added to the narrative, but the story remained exclusive. Some collectors suspected even more extreme variations might exist: double-struck errors, misaligned planchets, or unexpected mint marks. A few even began examining coins from West Point, where a limited run of W mint mark quarters had been introduced in 2019. None with rotated dies emerged from that group yet, but the possibility kept interest high. Carl, meanwhile, watched the market shift. He was still getting offers. A private bidder from New York proposed $4,000. Another collector from Texas wanted to trade a rare 1972 double die penny. Carl declined again. He wasn't chasing the money. He was chasing the moment when the full weight of this error would be understood. And then it came. In early 2025, a pristine 2019 Memorial Park quarter surfaced. It was submitted by a young collector from Arizona who had inherited a roll of untouched quarters from his grandfather. Inside that roll was a flawless coin, rotated nearly 180 degrees. No damage. No marks. Slabbed at MS67 by PCGS. But what set this one apart was something no one expected. Under high-resolution inspection, beneath the wreath on the reverse, was a faint but unmistakable extra leaf, an element not present in the original die design. Not a clash. Not doubling. A phantom etching from an earlier die revision, thought to have been discarded before production. Somehow, this test die had made it into circulation. The numismatic world reacted with disbelief. Experts confirmed it. The leaf was real. A ghost of a prototype. The die must have been used for a brief period before being replaced. That single coin, the only one known with both a 180-degree rotation and the extra design element, was dubbed the Phantom Wreath. It sold at auction for $21,000. And just like that, the story of the 2019 Memorial Park quarter shifted again. From routine to rarity. From design to legend. What began as a quiet tribute to fallen heroes had become a saga of error, discovery, and value. Today, rotated die versions of the 2019 Memorial Park quarter in high grade continue to rise in demand. Even coins with moderate 60 to 90 degree rotations regularly sell for over $1,000 when certified. The most extreme examples, those approaching full rotation, can bring in 5 figures. Carl finally did sell his coin. In March 2025, it changed hands for a confirmed price of $9,800. He framed the check and kept the slab photo. And in his safe, beside a few modest rolls, rests a single empty coin tube, labeled simply, "The one that changed everything."